are sort of A-list NBA stars participating in the slam dunk contest. Last year was kind of rare exception that we actually did have Jaylen Brown participating in the slam dunk contest. I know he got roasted for it, but I do still want to give him at least the compliment that he participated in that.
Agreed.
So Draymond's point was that, really you had Jordan participated in the dunk contest, more than one. Kobe participated in dunk contest. LeBron kind of taking this mantle of one of the greats of a generation, if not the greatest of a generation, and not being involved in that dunk contest kind of set the bar for other superstars. Now, we've seen that play out. I don't think you can put that entirely on LeBron, but he has undoubtedly been the face of the league. Welcome to In the Lab with Hoopsology. I am your host, Matt Thomas, joined by my co-hosts. I'll start with Allan Muenzler. Allan, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Happy, what is this, Wednesday already? Yeah.
It's the post
NBA's back
All-Star
tonight.
That's right. It's the post All-Star weekend hangover episode here on Hoopsology. We're going to be breaking that down for sure. But yeah, thank goodness there's new basketball on to maybe erase our memory of that weekend. We'll talk about that more. But I got another host on the show here, Justin Godrum. Justin, how you doing, man?
Doing good. I hope we can detox what I think everybody experienced from this past weekend and find some solutions. Try to be a little positive in terms of finding some silver lining, but that's going to be tough, at least for my part. So we'll see.
Man, we've got NBA personalities, NBA legends in the mix, all giving their comments. I heard the recent comments from Oscar Robertson, a little back and forth with Draymond and things like that we might get into. But like you said, I always look forward to these discussions, even though in this case, the All-Star game has been a bit of a thorn in our side the past couple years. Ultimately, we all want to see this thing succeed. And so we're going to recap it and maybe talk about some potential solutions, or if it just needs to go away, or whatever we think on that. Before we do that, just want to give a shout out to you, the listeners and viewers of our show, supporters of our show. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for just all the traction you've given the show lately and for tuning into our recent interviews. I hope you have been enjoying those. We certainly have been enjoying getting on those interviews, and we have a lot of interviews, and one we're even recording later tonight after we record this that you guys will eventually hear, and we are super excited for you to hear it. So once again, shout out to all of you that keep Hoopsology podcast going. Really appreciate you. So guys, I figured we start with a recap of this All-Star weekend, and for whatever reason, sadly, I have not even seen this movie, but we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of All-Star Weekend. So, Justin, like you said, I want to start positive here, and I'll throw it to you first. Let's hold our criticism as much as we can, and let's talk about what was good. Give me something that you thought maybe went well.
I got to go with Mac McClung. I thought he was great. I think people are penalizing him because he's a G leaguer, but I think it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, here's a guy who's making this slam dunk contest relevant, and without him, there would be zero interest in this competition at all. So I credit him for risking his life on some of his dunks over our car. So I give him massive props. That's probably the only good. And I think unpopular opinion, I disagree with his opinions, but I would say Draymond Green. He's provocative. He's interesting. Every time he's on the panel, I am interested in what he has to say, even though I disagree with it. And that's something very valuable compared to like ESPN, where it's just basically like, typical, sports banter that you would see, kind of uninspired, where I think with Draymond, he's a current player that is not afraid to speak his mind. So I thought that was refreshing, even though I take issue with what he said.
We're going to put a pin in that because I promise you we will come back to that. Allan, give me your thoughts on, anything positive that you took away from the weekend? You can add to what Justin said or other stuff too.
Yeah, I think the All-Star weekend was a great opportunity to catch up on some sleep, up on some TV shows that I've been needing to catch up on, so, I think that's about where I stand with it.
All right. Well, you took positive in a little different direction, but I can't disagree with the sentiment there. I'll say this is sort of adjacent, I guess, but for me, it was kind of nice that we didn't have inside the NBA. Is this their last time? Like that wasn't looming over us this All-Star weekend. That kind of doesn't fully have to do with All-Star weekend, but there's a positive 2 cents from me. All right, so we'll try to gradually release some of the let's call it constructive criticism. Let's start with the bad, and keep in mind we do have the ugly category coming next. So, Allan, I'll rotate back to you. We'll go, I don't know, snake draft style or whatever this is, snake topic style. Give me something that you didn't like, maybe you didn't think was terrible, but just that you didn't like about All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, the format of, initially I thought the idea sounded kind of cool of the format of all the different teams playing against each other to a certain score. In practice, I think it seemed like it sucked the drama out of the games a little bit. And that's not a good thing for games that ultimately don't mean anything, which is my big complaint about the All-Star game. It doesn't mean anything. And so it was, I think it was just kind of a boring evening of basketball.
Gotcha. Justin, what about you? Give me something bad, maybe not terrible, but negative side.
Yeah, so I would say with the tournament format, I wasn't totally against it. And I think we saw some bright spots in terms of the competitiveness of the players. I think in some aspects it actually worked. The problem was the production. It was just we're going to take a break after scoring 10 points. We're going to take another break. We're going to have a long halftime show. I mean, I think it was the last game, and I just went to watch some stuff on Disney Plus, and it was around 45 minutes, and the championship game barely started. It was 45. I was like, what is happening here? Like, I just thought, like, and then the players just were annoyed too. It's just, they have a rhythm to keep if they're going to really participate in this game. So we can't sit here and criticize the players and then at the same time handicap them when they're actually trying to play hard. Like you can't have it both ways. So I just thought from a production standpoint, whether that was TNT or the NBA, that was a massive miss in my opinion. We'll get to Kevin Hart later.
And I mean, maybe just in a general sense, like I agree the tournament idea. I had some I think more wishful thinking type of takes with it when we talked about it earlier this year, Justin. But I mean, just blatantly, like more games doesn't seem to be anyone's preference for All-Star game weekend, whether it's the players or the viewers. It just seems to be too much still. I mean, the past several years, one game has been one game too much, and now there's more games. So that's a problem. Allan, I'll go back to you. Anything else on the negative side you wanted to mention before we get into maybe what caused more emotional responses?
Yeah, I mean, and I do have opinions on that. I think just in general, and we'll kind of talk about that too, about fixes or potential fixes. I think I just go back to it's just being boring. Even the 3-point stuff, it just seemed boring. I just wish I could put my finger on it, but there was nothing that got me like, wow. And that's not good. I'm looking for wow, and there was no wow.
Yep, got to have that pop, that snap crackle pop. Keep us watching. Justin, what about you?
I would say, what's the first competition? I'm blanking on the name. Where he's basically they're going to the obstacle course. What's that called? I'm blanking on.
Skills challenge.
There you go. So with the rules, I mean, I just thought I didn't blame Wemby and Chris Paul for taking advantage of the rules in terms of just jacking up the shots. I just thought they were
All right,
taking
we got to
advantage of
talk
the
about
loophole.
this. We got to talk about this. Keep going.
So to me, was it like the best thing for them to do? No. Do I begrudge him for? At first, I was kind of angry at him for doing it. Then I thought, it was like, wait a minute. Like, this is the NBA's fault. You set the rules and they took advantage and they got approval for this. And then the NBA has the audacity to have one of their, I don't know, so one of their goons come out there and talk to Chris Paul and Wemby. And then Allie LaForce is trying to ask questions and they have the audacity to shoo her away. They're like, we're not talking about that. I mean, I thought that was super disrespectful. And on national TV, like, I was unbelievable. Even the announcers, they're like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I don't know. To me, it's like, if you're going to DQ them, you need to defend that decision. You don't have to shoo your silent reporter. It was very WWE-esque in how they did that whole thing. So I don't know. I thought that was a bad mark. Probably more than what Wemby and Chris Paul did is how the league handled it.
And you look like you want to get in there on this. Go ahead.
I do. This is my ugly, and it was
Me
I think
too.
the ugliest scene of the whole weekend, and that was Wemby and Chris Paul trying to game the skills challenge. It was unsportsmanlike. It for a guy who this was his big coming out party, the NBA is hoping, right? It was a disaster. And I don't think it endeared him to any of his colleagues in the NBA. They were hiding it, but you could tell Evan and Donovan were not happy with watching what was going down as it was happening. And I mean, Wemby's a tall French guy. We love dunking on tall French guys, so he already has that going against him. And now he's got this. I think there's going to be a target. People are going to want to take out their frustrations on Wemby for the second half season. Now, he's going to block most of those shots because it's Wemby, but I think this was a missed opportunity for him to come across as a fun, endearing, likable NBA guy.
Yeah, Allan, that's so well said. And I think it doesn't resemble greatness in any sort of way. And I know this sounds maybe hokey or old school, whatever you want to say, but I can't picture, like, when you think of Kobe Bryant, him treating a challenge like that. When you think of Michael Jordan, when you think of, you list off the greats, Magic Johnson, whoever you want to put in there, Larry Bird. Is Larry Bird going to do this in a skills contest? No way. He's going to be looking at eviscerating the competition. It was in many ways a slap in the face and just kind of maybe emblematic of the perception around All-Star Weekend by the players. I mean, I don't want to paint in broad strokes here and put that on all the players, but when you look at what the All-Star games look like, and then now it's bleeding over into, honestly, what I was still tuning in to All-Star Weekend for was the Saturday night competitions. And now you're getting this kind of energy, even all the way down to the skills contest. It's just a bad look overall. And it's not something, I mean, say Wemby does the unthinkable, say he wins like 8 NBA championships. This is not going to be something, I mean, someone, his PR agent or whoever, is going to be trying to bury this footage from this challenge. Somebody give me something else, Justin, if you want to respond or give something else that was ugly.
I agree. I think I agree with what you're saying. Again, with that skills challenge, is anybody going to remember in this microwave society? I don't think so. However, I think you're right, Matt. This is indicative of the entitlement that these players feel nowadays. And that's confirmed for what Draymond Green said, this in terms of changing the format of the All-Star game and not taking responsibility for how he got to this point. It's your era's player's fault. And he took no responsibility. He just wanted to like place on everybody else. And I just think that's, indicative of the peers that are his peers in the NBA. So yeah, it's a shame. It was embarrassing, but I kind of blame the NBA more. I mean, all you had to do, it doesn't take a genius to figure out somebody's going to do this. So to me, just put a penalization. You have to take a shot and you miss it, you get a 15-second penalty. That solves it, and then you're eliminated. I mean, I don't know. I think ultimately it was the NBA's screw up there. But I get what you guys were saying, with Wemby.
It's interesting because on the other side of that, I think you could argue, just playing devil's advocate, like you could say on the NBA side, when they're organizing this, they're just not anticipating that anyone would be kind of so callous in acting that way. But you're correct that rules on the other side, yes, that could also impact this. I have some other thoughts. Allan, I want to go back to you first in terms of anything else that just kind of rubbed you the wrong way, made your skin crawl, whatever you want to say.
I mean, I think just the Friday night stuff is as lame as it always is. The celebrity game is such a collection of like Z-list celebrities that
it was worse than ever.
Just, like, terrible. What are you even doing here? And then, some WNBA players, which is, I feel like a slap in the face to them. Okay. So that's probably the other thing that I just, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, it is interesting optics to put WNBA players in that game now at this point where we are, when in a lot of cases the WNBA in certain games with, Caitlin Clark, or especially if it was Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, they're performing better in the ratings than many of these NBA regular season games, maybe the vast majority of them, I think is safe to say at this point. You bring up the celebrity game, so I did want to just touch on this. This was more on the bad side, not necessarily the ugly side to me, but I think there's a general, Justin, we've talked about this, a societal burnout on celebrities, and I think you could feel some of that in All-Star Saturday Night, like with the utilization of Kevin Hart once again, just going back to him, like we're not doing something new, we're bringing him back, and everyone's gotten reps with Kevin Hart. Yes, he's a funny gentleman. I admire a lot of his work, but it feels a little bit tired at this point. And then also just felt kind of weird, the whole Mr. Beast thing. I don't know if you guys caught any clips of that segment.
I have plenty of thoughts on that.
Go for it. I don't know. It just felt kind of, I don't know if cringe is the right word, but just, it was really awkward.
I'll address all three. So first, the celebrities. So I won't speak for either. I'll speak for myself. I have to come to a realization that I'm approaching 40. One of our friends turned 40 today. And so we're coming near that age. And the celebrities in the All-Star game, they are very much of a geared toward the younger demographic. I understand that.
Not for us.
So not for me in terms of who participated in that game. With Kat Sanad and Drewski, I've seen them all over different forms of media. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Not for me. I am man enough to recognize that out front. But from an entertainment standpoint, this is about celebrating the game of basketball. And that goes to the celebrity game. That goes to Saturday with Mr. Beast. And it goes to Sunday with Kevin Hart. I thought it was massively disrespectful to not only your audience, but to the players that are participating. So what do I mean by that? So let's go Saturday. So All-Star Saturday night is supposed to be really kind of a overall celebration of the game. And I think, and I forgot in one of the good parts, I think Vince Carter celebrating his anniversary of his 2000 slam dunk contest, I think was well done. And Vince Carter earned his paycheck. They had him out there doing everything. And I think that was a pretty good job. But when we head to Saturday, that's where the problems start. Mr. Beast. I mean, this guy just, and I think even No Dunks pointed it out. I watched Mr. Beast's videos. He has some charisma in his videos. But here, he is not a guy to do live television. He's antagonizing the poor guy who's trying to hit the shot. He's trying to get Kenny Smith and Shaq, who are not even paying attention to the shot, to come in to participate in this. Luckily, he hit it. Thank goodness it saved the segment. He hit the shot. Some miracle. You have Damian Lillard. I think he was trying at first, and then he just like, all right, I give up. So that was a debacle. I just thought it was just like, please get off my television screen, please. And then with Kevin Hart, And then I think this is way worse to me because you have him antagonizing players. You have him just slowing down the game. You have SGA saying, "Hey, have you played a game, please?" So to me, it's just like I can't get mad at the players for, you know, their aggravation. They wanted to try. I think that was very clear. And like the last game, I don't blame the players. I really want to, but I can't. I mean, they had a 45-minute delay with all these shenanigans. And then when you come from commercial break, you have Kevin Hart just screaming and shouting while their possession was going on. I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's talking while the game's happening. Like, what is going on here? Like, I think they were scared that the players weren't able to put on a show. So they had to put all these BS bells and whistles. And I think it cost them. And I think it was a disgrace to me and doing that. So I think that was a huge faux pas for the NBA. And it robs, I think, of really seeing if this tournament format worked. Because if you saw I think it was the Rising Stars, I think versus the OGs, that was competitive. When the Rising Stars were in striking distance, you saw the OGs turn it on. Like, we're not going to lose to these guys that shouldn't be belonging Sunday. Like, you saw that competitive balance there. You saw some fire. Good. I was rooting for the Rising Stars to take him out, to show some gusto, to embarrass them. But quite honestly, based on last year's performance, you saw some competitiveness even in the first game. So there was something there. I wouldn't say this format was a failure completely, but I think at the same time, just with TNT and the NBA, I think they missed a mark, and that's a massive understatement.
Well said, Justin. I do have two more big bullet points I want to get to here. And then I want to give us some time to maybe talk about how this should look next year. So the interesting discussion that I heard, this has long been the case. I mean, we had Shaq picking on Donovan Mitchell like a long time ago. That was kind of more mano a mano. But we know that inside the NBA, I mean, one of the strengths of that show is you never know what's going to happen. They're going to say whatever they want. Same thing with Draymond this weekend in his media coverage. Question I'll throw to you guys. I mean, should the NBA be a little bit stronger of a watchdog? I mean, is there a case to be made that, look, we're going to get ripped on for the All-Star game by plenty of videos on YouTube, other stuff out there. I saw all the content coming out, all that stuff. We don't need that from, yes, we want you guys to speak your mind, but where do we draw this line in sort of like protecting the brand from our media partners? The NFL, for example, does this. They don't really allow the same type of criticism that the NBA does. You could also argue that the coverage around the NFL and the analysis is just very much on the X's and O's, and you could at times, if you don't care about the teams that are being covered, I mean, it could be napping material at times because it's so polished. Justin, I'll go to you first. Thoughts? You mentioned Draymond earlier and that you like him speaking his mind. How do you counter that with what the media partner should be doing to support the All-Star weekend?
Yeah, it's a difficult spot because I always say if they don't care, then why should the audience care? So that's an excellent point. And I think, there's no secret what Draymond had, and his thoughts were personal because he's a player playing in this era, and he took umbrage with the Rising Stars participating in on Sunday night, which makes sense. I get it from both perspectives. I don't see how them speaking their mind results in lower ratings. I mean, take a look at like the players that are not getting attention. Jokic, they praise him all the time. SGA, I haven't heard any negative coverage about him. Like LeBron, when LeBron plays, when Steph plays, they still get massive ratings. So same thing with Luka. So if you take, we have to take this in a very tangible manner, right? Like with Donovan Mitchell, like if they're praising Donovan Mitchell, if everybody was saying, "Hey, we love Donovan Mitchell, he's incredible," are the ratings really going to go up with Donovan Mitchell playing in Cleveland? Let's just keep it real. Probably not. Like, I think at this point, a lot of the NBA is kind of homogenous in terms of, I think your casual audience can't decipher who is like the main star of this league. Everybody has similar stats. Everybody plays very similarly, especially with Steph and LeBron leaving. Everybody's kind of in the same era, and a lot of your international stars are not being really propped up. So to me, when there's negative criticism, I just don't know how that's quantified into this league sucks, I'm not watching anymore.
Gotcha. Allan, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just real quick. I've been watching Inside the NBA for a long time before Charles was on. And I can tell you that people watching that show have had no issues disagreeing with whatever nonsense those guys are saying. So I don't, and to put something in place like what the NFL has, I mean, we can ask Bill Simmons how he feels about that. I mean, wasn't he suspended for talking about CTE too much by ESPN?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't think that leads to good TV. Even when the basketball's bad, at least inside the NBA can give you some good TV for the most part. And I think that's probably the most important part as far as those ratings go for both TNT and the NBA. So no, I don't. I'm fine with them saying whatever they want to say, and I don't think they said anything that everyone else wasn't thinking this weekend.
Well said. I want to get to one more thing before I talk about solutions. It has to be said. I found, Draymond has audio of him talking about kind of the fall of the slam dunk contest. And really what I mean by that is are sort of A-list NBA stars participating in the slam dunk contest. Last year was kind of rare exception that we actually did have Jaylen Brown participating in the slam dunk contest. I know he got roasted for it. But I do still want to give him at least the compliment that he participated in that. So Draymond's point was that, really you had Jordan participated in the dunk contest, more than one. Kobe participated in dunk contest. LeBron kind of taking this mantle of one of the greats of a generation, if not the greatest of a generation, and not being involved in that dunk contest kind of set the bar for other superstars. Now, we've seen that play out. I don't think you can put that entirely on LeBron, but he has undoubtedly been the face of the league. The other thing that happened this weekend that I wanted to get to is, roughly 5 hours before the All-Star game happened, LeBron notified the media that because of his ankle issues, he actually was not going to be playing or participating in the All-Star game. He's the player that still to this day gets the most clicks on social media. They're still promoting LeBron James on the media materials for even NBA League Pass, which the Lakers aren't on as frequently as other teams. I'm just wondering how you guys feel about this entire situation with LeBron not participating after all in that All-Star game.
That was a horrendous look for the league. I think way worse than what Wemby and Chris Paul did. And he played in a bunch of All-Star games. If he were to come out Thursday, hey, I'm sitting it out, I don't have an issue with it. Pick a replacement, who cares? But hours before the game, I'm like, come on, man. Like, you're going to sit out. And I just think that was a huge detriment. Just to, I don't know. I think that's kind of a legacy hit. In my opinion, I think that was just massively disrespectful. And to your point about the slam dunk contest, I mean, look, all these guys, I agree with you with Jaylen Brown. I give him credit for going out there and trying. I hate how after the slam dunk contest, you had John Morant saying, I want to get in there. All these fools on Twitter saying they're going to participate. Y'all ain't going to do nothing. Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine ain't going to do crap. And as a side note, I think I was shocked that Aaron Gordon competes again. I mean, the guy got multiple times robbed, so I don't know why he would want to do it again.
He's done his service.
He's done some of the greatest dunks of all time. Yeah. Just has not won one, so there's no way he's doing it again. But I think it goes to the entitlement of a lot of these players in terms of social media. They don't want to get embarrassed. It goes to the same thing in terms of what Mike Silsky said about not being dunked on, like not contesting the shot. I don't want to be put on a poster. Let the guy dunk it. It's 2 points, whatever. We'll shoot a 3 and make it up. Like, I don't want to be embarrassed on social media forever. Like, these guys, they want to protect the rep, and the competition is gone. And it's truly unfortunate. And unfortunately, because, younger people, they turn into older people, they're going to control the narrative. So I think it's a losing battle that I just don't think we have any control over, unfortunately.
Thoughts about all that?
Yeah, wow, that's a lot to unpack. Good points, Justin. I think I think about the entitlement. I think that, yeah, I think branding is so important to the modern players. I just think back to like, do you guys remember this was a decade or plus ago? Steve Nash put together an all-star video where he was, trying to get votes for the all-star, and it was a video of all of his mistakes, and he ended up saying, "I am the greatest ever," kind of thing, right? That was funny, and it was a way to kind of highlight being postered or all crazy turnovers. And I don't know that there's players now who have that confidence in themselves to be able to do that. And so I think that's something I would love to see some guys be able to kind of make fun of themselves a little bit. It might make them seem more human. For LeBron, I think the big victims there were Jalen Williams and Domantas Sabonis, both of who would have been up as the replacement. One of those guys would have been his replacement, and I think it's kind of a shame. Um, uh, so that's where I stand on that. I don't know if it's a big legacy hit because I don't know that anybody will remember it necessarily, but it was a bad look for the weekend for sure to have your marquee star decide not to play right before.
Totally agree. So guys, I want this to lead into kind of our last, I guess, kind of closing thoughts as we wrap up here. I'll just mention briefly. I mean, Bill Simmons, of course, had this whole plan on how you're going to fix the All-Star game, and it was something like you can only be an All-Star if you're a top 5 seed, and then this game is going to be played for home court advantage. Is this whole complicated thing, which is already kind of like a barrier to me during the in-season tournament, like thinking about all the rules and how this works and how we're going to do that. I don't want to add that to All-Star weekend as well. So I strongly disagree with his solution, and you can certainly feel otherwise and argue the other way. I know some of your guys' thoughts on how this game might look better, but I just want to give you each some time. Maybe if you think this game can be saved, and if so, how? Justin, I'll start with you.
The game as we know it, probably not. The weekend, yes. And I think the NHL has the playbook. Not saying to copy the NHL fully. I mean, they're having multiple games on multiple nights. And as we're recording this on the Thursday, which is tomorrow, they're having a championship game for their Four Nations tournament. I don't think you need to go that far. I think just having either a mini tournament with international teams, because you have the FIBA World Cup, you have the Olympics. So these international competitions are happening on a regular basis. You can do some kind of form of that. I think would be in the best interest is to mix it up in terms of having international representation there. I think the Olympics showed that was wonderful basketball. I enjoyed that way more than the NBA finals or anything in the playoffs. So playing for your country just brings something out of from these players. And I think, we're talking about the weekend. The NHL dominated All-Star weekend. They destroyed the NBA. And, I'm more of a casual hockey fan nowadays, but I watched hockey. So this Saturday night, other than Mac McClung, I mean, I was watching, Canada play the U.S., and that was awesome. There was 3 fights in 3 seconds, and then the hockey was great too. So bring it on. So to me, I think playing for your country, that matters more. And one more thing, there's rumors about incorporating a 1v1 tournament on Rival. That was really great. I give props to the women that participated, that they played pretty hard, and despite just the hard schedule that they're going through anyways, and for them to put their bodies on the line, props to them. I mean, the guys, they seem really into it. I know there are some interviews just about, a lot of the players being excited and participating in a 1-versus-1 tournament for like $1 million. These players are not going to play anything. They're not going to play hard in a 1-versus-1 tournament. I mean, come on. I mean, what are we doing? So to me, I think some kind of international element, incorporate All-Star Saturday night, slam dunk sorry, not slam dunk, but the 3-point contest, that was a dud. But that, mostly the 3-point contest is pretty good. I think the other things can be modified. I'm not really super worried about that. I think the game is of most concern. I think incorporating an international element would be the best.
What do you think? Is this fixable? Is there a way you would fix it?
Yeah, I and Simmons has been talking about this for a long time, and is playing East versus West for home court advantage, is that something that would spur people on? Does it do it in baseball? Because that's the whole baseball thing, right? What's the, we should look at that and see if it works for the MLB. You got to put something together where the players actually care to play. Or you say, we're not going to do this. And you find other activities. I think when I think of Saturday night, I think for the dunk contest, those YouTube guys who did the Cleveland halftime show had the best dunks I've seen without any props. They didn't have a car or anything like that. The dunk contest, Mac McClung works on his dunks, probably to the detriment of his game, which is why he's still in the G League. Jaylen Brown doesn't have time to work on his dunks. That's not what he's being asked to do. He knows how to dunk in a game. He's working on defense and working on running offensive plays and stuff like that. Practicing dunks doesn't help him become a better player. I think that's why we're seeing not seeing the participation from like the superstars, because they're more focused on, that other stuff. Back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't that as big a focus, right? Those guys were, they were practicing hard, but it wasn't as intense maybe as it is now, as far as practice and taking care of your body and all of that kind of stuff. So I think the dunk contest should be maybe more amateur hours, and if somebody wants to participate, they can. I kind of was thinking even the Friday night game. What if you threw in one of those, like the two finalists for the TBG? What was that? The basketball tournament or whatever?
Oh, yeah, TBT. Yeah.
Yeah, TBT. Yeah. So throw in the two finalists there, right? Cougs Forever and whoever the other people were.
Cool.
Have those games were great. I watched a lot of the TBT games. Those were intense. Those guys were playing. They were playing for $1 million, and they don't make $1 million. So I think kind of almost like the Olympics, throwing some amateur stuff in there a little bit might be kind of fun. Like the Dame Lillard thing might have been more fun if, Mr. Beast wasn't involved.
Great.
Stuff like that I think could be really, really exciting.
Yeah. Well said, gentlemen. I know we got to get out of here. I'll just quickly say, I think we all kind of agree that things aren't really going to get all that much better if the stars of the NBA, the all-stars that this weekend is named after, don't get a little bit more hands-on with the effort. And I don't know if that will be something like a USA versus World or like an international team tournament, like you kind of allude to there, Justin. I think that could be interesting, at least more interesting than what we saw this year. I think also just keeping the tradition and hoping that the players kind of internally fix it and bring that competition back. But that all to me sounds like very wishful thinking. I'll be honest that I'm pretty black-pilled on All-Star Weekend at this whole point, and I don't know if that fix is coming. And that, I mean, unless the NBA starts holding like a really high bar, like, I mean, imagine if they made a requirement, you have to have made an all-star game to perform in the dunk contest, but then are players going to agree to do that? And how intense do you want to get with that regulation? Because it doesn't seem like the type of event where you want to be, threatening to fine a player for not participating in it or something along those lines. So to me, it does feel like kind of a lost cause at this point, but wishing for better in the future. I got to say, I'm not too hopeful right now, but I do hope they change the format up from this year and figure something out, even if we just say, to heck with it. It's going to be our long-standing tradition of East versus West, and you guys have to bring it. We'll see what happens. I love the discussion and all your guys' thoughts and ideas. We got to get going because we have other stuff to do tonight. But want to say again, shout out and thank you to you, the listener, viewer, and supporters of the show. Really appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts about All-Star Weekend. What fixes you think could happen to make this weekend altogether a better thing and an improvement on the NBA brand rather than a potential embarrassment. For Justin Godrum, for Allan Muenzler, I'm Matt Thomas. We will see you guys again soon on the next episode. Until then, peace out.